crisply. This is a meeting of the Policy Committee of the Whole, and if activating recording has been done, all will note that this meeting is being recorded. So our mandate here is to discuss and make recommendations to the board on all matters related to bylaws, policy, and administrative procedures. I would like to acknowledge that we are meeting today on the lands of the Coast Salish people and shared traditional territory of the Qualicum and Sinawas Nanu's First Nations. And we thank them for allowing us to live, work, and play in this beautiful and now today sunny part of our island. So welcome everybody and thank you for joining us. Couple of maybe new faces and congratulations to Marina for her election to DPAC. We'll look forward to working with you guys for sure. Off the top, we've got some sort of quick items to deal with and things that are for information and what we might call pending and in the parking lot. Working still on the, I believe, but Mr. Amos may want to correct me, but we don't have it for today. Tendering, purchasing, and disposal policy 101, possibly to be split into two, which would be a purchasing policy versus tendering and disposal. So that's still in the works. We have a couple of items, and I'm afraid I think we're going to be adding one more when we look at the 800s. To Anna Phillips Place, our health and wellness coordinator, the policies 603, 604, and 606, which are tied directly to new language and information coming from WorkSafe BC, to which they found their first go round of preparing these items in their own court, in their own yard, to be too wordy and too cumbersome. So they've kind of drawn back the whole thing and have said they want to continue to work on it. So 603, 604, and 606 is presently in hold. And I might suggest that when we get to the 800s at the end of our discussion today, that 801, health and safety of employees in the workplace, also may be considered under that review as well. I see hands from Mr. Amos. Go ahead, Ron.
Sorry, yes, just context to the purchasing. Likely what will end up happening, the policy itself is mostly fine. I just want to sever the APs likely. It's really what it comes down to, and possibly renaming the policy so it's a little bit clearer on the intent of the board on this, which is truly how we purchased stuff. And the stuff could be a capital project, it could be day-to-day purchases through purchasing cards and that kind of nature. But the policy itself, I think, is fine. It's the admin procedures in terms of how we access those purchases, whether they be a capital project domain or they be the day-to-day operational costs that sometimes comes through a tendering or just a request for proposal process.
With purchasing thresholds and things like that. Yeah.
Correct. Yeah, because that unfortunately that's where it gets confusing when you're reading the existing APs is there should be a clear delineation of the parameters of a capital program, which has a much higher threshold. Clearly, when you're talking capital projects, you're potentially dealing with a $500,000 plus item. And those are the unusual ones that wouldn't necessarily be captured under a normal purchasing policy. And so we just want to kind of make sure that when you're looking at the admin procedures, you're recognizing that one is for the day-to-day actions, tolerance to risk, tolerance to authority, and making sure that we're following it from the audit perspective, and then from the capital perspective, making sure that there's clear understanding of who and how much is sort of guided by the board's vision versus staff itself vision.
And I think what we're trying to do is keep policy and APs together to come to this table at the same time, not do one and then say, well, the other one's coming. So that's sort of, let's try to keep it as tight as we can to always considering both at the same time where they both exist. Yeah. Elaine.
Yeah, just on that one actually, and then my question is around 701. I think that one has figures in it. I hate having figures in policy and AP because you constantly have to change them. But we need to probably look at those as well, Mr. Amos. I'm sure you've got that on your list.
Well, the AP has policy purchasing thresholds, and that
Exactly.
that can be changed in one reading. That doesn't have to be a three reading process. So it's tightening that and raising the level of them. And making them local. Yeah.
The whole purpose of the AP is to establish the thresholds. You want numbers in there. Yes, you have to look back at it you need to refresh it every once in a while, but they need to be reasonable, that people can look at it and say, okay, I get it. This is an area, this isn't a cost, or this is a price level that I really should be talking to the principal, or I really should be talking to a director or associate superintendent, or I really should be asking the ST for guidance on it. So you want the thresholds, they just need to be reasonable.
Yeah, and they need to be updated constantly, as to Trustee Flynn's comment. With policy 701.
We're just coming up to it. Can we just, we finish up the 6 and now we'll move to 701. Student discipline. This one is in your package, page 1 to 3. And Dr. Jory is presently visiting with the principals and vice principals and school-based folks, because some of the AP process pieces we hope to take more closer to the school community level, not having it enacted at some high school board office, feeling like you're, going to, pretty judicial type process, taking some of that away from this. And I believe, Peter, your meetings were taking place through this month into early of the next November, with principals and vice principals each to discuss your thinking. And so maybe you want to expand on that a bit for folks.
Yep, just very briefly, you can, if I share, and Eve, thumbs up if you can see the old policy there. Okay, well, so there it is. I mean, there's two things going on. One is the streamlining that you're going to start to see as we bring these revised policies forward in their more refined and hopefully clear form. So this is, this is kind of 3 pages as it exists. Oops, overshot that. What we're going to try to do here is get down to a policy that is 1 page. That's your draft text that I'll bring forward in a month or so. And then the APs, we're looking at exactly like Chair Flynn said, this highlighted content here where we're pulling people into the office and looking at if there's some ways to move those conversations out into the school community, maybe even into the Indigenous communities, and have those relationships be germane to those next forward steps, and save these conversations at the board office for a much smaller percentage than we're doing. But how can we express that? Where are we going to draw our lines? That's really where the conversations are taking place, and I'm getting some great input from our team out there in the schools. So more to follow.
So yet another in the pending file. And then we'll move. Oh, do you have any further comments, Elaine? Sorry.
Yeah, just I was trying to look at your new draft, and I think it's in there is around the what was missing from the package was the substance. I like to call it substance misuse. It's subsumed in what you're doing.
Exactly.
Right?
So the discipline policy, the 2 APs will, and they are slightly different pieces with slightly different responses, but they're going to be under a page each, and I think they'll be very clear, but they'll both be attached to that. Yes.
That's fabulous. I think all of our policies should be 1 page in length, and our APs should be as short as we can make them. Thank you.
Yep. 1 page when possible, for sure. Okay. Thank you, everyone.
Okay, next on the agenda is policy 708, emergency preparedness and closure, and this is with Grant, who is going to consider merging the two APs that are aligned to that into being one under one heading. So we don't have this strange policy outlier here that has two APs to it. So that's still in the pending column. Okay, for our consideration today and first reading and or approve as currently written. New draft policy and AP for policy 700, safe, caring, and inclusive school communities. This is pages 12 to 19 in your package. And this is our attempt with our first one to slim down and be concise and not too wordy, but make sure that we have the essence of the information that we want to have folks available to them when they look up this title, Safe, Caring, and Inclusive School Communities. So over to you, Peter, to walk us through the new draft.
Yeah, and so let me just, here we go. So basically, this is, I'm going to have to confess here, essentially we've loaded it in the old one into our new favorite employee, and it's come back in a streamlined form. Essentially, it's about 45% of the word count, but it's the intention here is that we've captured not just all of the intentions, but actually all of the specifics as well, just in a leaner and more clear form. And so the new draft is there. It is obviously shorter, but I think it's absolutely intact as far as what to do. And what I'll say here is there was a bit of a conversation around combining safe, caring, inclusive schools and discipline. And at this particular point, I'm recommending that we don't do that, because this particular piece focuses on how we are designing our school context with the intention of making it a safe and appropriate place to learn. And then the discipline piece is what happens when something goes sideways, right? And so we're kind of separating those two out, keeping them from being confused, making the assumption, of course, that for the most part, 700 is really going to carry the day. And then 701 will be there when we need it to be. So there's my spiel. Over to you, Chair.
Any comments, trustees? Anything off the top? Eileen?
Of course. One of the things that I wonder about, and it could be in another policy, it might be in our personnel policies. I'm starting to lose track of my memory of that stuff. There's a code of conduct that every school has, and that covers our students, and I would assume because of modeling it also covers our staff to a certain extent. But we have programs that are not in schools. Is that covered in another area? Like, we don't want people who are not part of the teaching staff or the support staff. We expect the same conduct from them. And I think it is in the personnel policy, but I just wanted to check.
Now, what I'll say is, and of course, those are all pending. And actually, I don't know what they're going to look like because through discovery, through their exploration process, they being BCPC has discovered a bunch of stuff. And what I'm hearing is, as much as we are trying to get briefer and clearer, what Anna's telling us is initially it's sounding like there's going to be more and more. So that'll push against that notion. But those ones, the 600 series, that's really about adults. The 700 series is really about kids. Now, if you are following along closely and you get into the AP here and you go to roles and responsibilities, we see the principals and vice principals hold primary responsibility for discipline, the code of conduct. We know that. Staff are expected to model respectful behavior and act to protect student safety. So there's a piece where we're holding our adults accountable. And then, of course, there's the consultation piece, which is also significant. But that's in the AP, not the policy. But it is, I think, critical to carrying out this. If we don't have those pieces, it's not going to work. I think everybody gets that.
And I think, I don't know if you're thinking, Elaine, about things like ROAMs, and these are all led by teachers of our district, so I think would follow within the parameters of certainly that statement number 2, all staff are expected to model. But whether you're thinking something different, I'm not sure.
I need to leave it for now, and
Okay.
we'll get through.
Right.
I think it's in the personnel policies.
Okay.
So I think it's there.
Okay. I see no further hands.
There's a question in the chat.
Okay, sorry.
Sorry, I was just
That's okay.
thinking, what about
Yeah.
volunteers? Do we need to should they be captured in that as well?
They'll get captured likely in the volunteers in schools policy.
Okay,
Yeah.
perfect.
There's
Yeah,
kind of a complete separate one.
Okay.
for that,
if
yeah.
we, sorry, may I
Yep,
through the
please.
chair?
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
if you look at the administrative procedure, the application of this is in the purpose, right? And so here's some clarifying statements. Applies to student conduct in all school programs, activities, whether on or off site. And addresses these infractions towards peers or staff. And then the bullet is misconduct by adults is addressed through other district procedures, collective agreements, or applicable law. So it's not intended to address adults here. There are expectations in here, but really we'd be, operationalizing any kind of actions typically through these other policies.
Okay, great. Thank you.
And Rennie.
Hi, I was just wondering if there was any thought given or reason for not including like UNDRIP in the policy, or the BC Multiculturalism Act in the policy.
The references or in the list in the context, are you thinking?
In context, yeah.
Yeah. Nice Declaration on Human Rights. That's
It's in the references.
And the Human Rights Code. What was the
It
other
may
one?
need it may need to be updated because it was written, I think, before we accepted UNDRIP as a province. I'm not sure, but I think it might have been written then, before then.
Oh, you're talking about in the context?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Maybe that's a
Okay.
miss, and we can put it
Yeah.
up there too.
Yeah, I just noticed that some other school districts include the BC Multiculturalism Act in their policies, not necessarily like as the broad scope of ours, but like with anti-racism policies and things like that. So I wasn't sure if that was something we could also include.
So UNDRIP and the BC Multiculturalism Act in the context. I think we can make that adjustment. Dr. Jory?
I don't see it in our references there. So let's
it's not.
let's get those in there.
Trustee Young?
Yeah, you might want to take a look. There's another document that we're going to be looking at the Ed Committee at some point, and it's the K-12 anti-racism plan. So that might be another route. You could go on. You could have pages of references on this one. But there is that plan.
That's the BCSDA one.
No, it's right from the provincial government. Racial Equity Together, K-12 Anti-Racism Action Plan.
Ministry of Ed.
No, government.
Ministry of
So-
Education or who?
Ministry of Education and Childcare, but it is provincial document.
Okay, Racial Equity K-12?
Racial Equity Together, K-12 Anti-Racism Action Plan.
Okay. Julie?
Yeah, I think as we're going through all of our policies, it's occurred to me, especially with some of the questions coming out about this one, when we look at our references at the bottom, that they can often contain some really pertinent and and good information. And I think maybe we should pay attention to our reference section a little closer. Perhaps we want to think about separating it out so that there's references, one that says internal information and external or something like that, so that and then we also try and anticipate what people's questions are, right? We had a parent asking about what about volunteers. So that might be the kind of thing when we lay out our references and put, internal links or something. If you are a volunteer, you may want to look at this policy, and have that policy. Try and anticipate what people's questions are going to be around the policies and try and lay it out as clearly as we can. But I definitely think we should separate out the external links and the internal links, because otherwise they kind of like, just looking at that, our internal link gets lost in there in the list when it's pointing to the other policy, to 701. So anyway, that's just a suggestion in terms of clarity and trying to make these things as accessible as possible. Thanks.
Okay, let's remind ourselves, remember, everybody, to keep that idea ahead. Ronnie.
Thank you. So I was wondering how, so it sounds like that when I read the policy, it looks like it's for everyone, like students, staff, the community, everybody. And then when I read the administrative procedures, the purpose includes everybody, but then the application says this applies to like student conduct. And so I think it's maybe similar to what Elaine was getting at, is like, I'm just not entirely sure. Like maybe that's the point. Maybe the administrative procedures only for the student body, and then the rest falls under other mechanisms, like other ways of behaving. But yeah, it kind of feels disjointed in that it sounds like it's for everybody in the school community, and then the administrative procedures gets more down to just students.
In application, it refers to adults. We've reviewed that. Principals, students, staff, and parents. With codes of conduct covers all the audiences, I think. Maybe if you could think of something where you think it's a miss. We can pick it up at our next meeting. We'll have this go forward to first reading, and then Randy and others who have more specific things that they would like included, you could bring forward that at the next policy committee. Peter.
Yeah, I was going to say that, policy is for everyone. There will be areas of focus as you work your way through. I mean, I'm sort of immersed in it, so that those delineations might not be clear to me sometimes. Like you get in, I would say I can't see the trees for the forest, or forest for the trees, one of those. Sometimes, and that's why we have a committee to look at this and make sure we have all these broad perspectives and fresh eyes. But this is a 700 series. It is about students, and the point of it is really we have a set of obligations here within the system, and in front and center of that is the code of conduct. And if you look at a code of conduct, it's going to be clear that that is really about student behavior. But the work that has to go into creating this environment, that's everybody's job, right? And so that's how it should read.
Yeah, and I think policy has to build on other policies, because we have different categories for different addressing specific work groups and aspects of the system. And because you can't say everything all the time in one. So I think that's where I land with some of my thinking is Julie, then Elaine.
Yeah, I was going to ask about that as well, Randy's exact question, basically. And then it was mentioned that this is under the 700 series, so it's, says very clearly student services. Then I thought, oh, okay, well, that sort of covers that then. That means that this policy, is attached to student services. But then, you know, if I were a parent and another parent, you know, we were having a discussion and I said, well, tell you what, I'm going to send you the policy. And I send them the policy. They're not going to know that that came from the 700 series. They're just going to see the policy. And as it's written, it does, you know, the audience is for everyone. But then when you get down to the meat and potatoes of it, it's for students. So again, it may come back to the title. And when I look at the student services list in the 700 series, I'd say over half of them put student actually in the title, so that it does make it very clear. So again, that might be something we want to consider. Thanks.
Okay, so I have a unique idea here, but also I think like we changed it from being really student focused to being community focused, because I think the will of the board at that time was to look at, you know, our adults model this behavior. Modeling is a really important piece of teaching, and everyone in our community should be modeling this behavior. My unique thought actually is where we have a title, Board Policy 700, in brackets, we could put
Student services.
the category,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
And then
I've just put it
suddenly
up there.
people would go, oh, okay, this is mostly about students, but we kind of see the generality of it. And then, you know, with personnel, it would say 600 personnel. The other comment I have is that when we were rewriting these the last time, I was looking a lot at the policies that came out of Sea to Sky. And what they had done is they had done a sort of a narrative, and Peter, you might have been there. So they'd done a narrative of each section, kind of the overarching beliefs about each section. And so that the 600, the personnel 600 is really generalized kind of what we believe about personnel in general. And maybe that's something that we should be looking at, is a kind of a summary of our beliefs about each section. I don't know.
Everybody have a look at Sea to Sky and let's see what we think. Yeah.
I don't think they've got it set up that way anymore.
I certainly put in the idea that up in the title, Board Policy 700, and in brackets, Student Services, that type of header to clarify that, I think is easily done and probably well worth the clarification so that people have a bit more focus right off from the title. Okay, we've got a couple little things to add to this one. And so trustees, are we okay with this going to our regular board meeting next week? Thumbs up, Julie, thumbs up for first reading, and at least gets it out in the public domain. Thank you, everyone. Lots of good ideas for sure. Next in our list is 709, and this is clarifying, which is practically what we do every year when it comes time for scholarships and bursaries, that this is now the Board of Education bursary. And it is outlined also the places that the funding, the bursary apply to what sites, because people felt that we were a bit loose on that. And so here's the new Board of Education policy statement and admin procedure. Are there any comments? Good to go to first reading? First reading, Granny.
Sorry, Eve.
Yeah.
I can't. Oh, there it is. Okay. Are we jumping around in the agenda a little bit? I'm
Nope.
having a little problem kind of keeping up.
No, item B, 3B, 709, page 20 to 22.
I am chuckling a bit because my first couple of times through this, I got lost too. And this is Eve's brain, and I'm learning.
Trying to keep up with me?
Yeah. That's it. Yeah.
Nice try. Granny.
I like the change from scholarship to bursary for the clarity. I think that's great. I just had a question on the administrative procedures. Under the purpose, there's 4th paragraph. It says school counselors and or scholarship committees will assess the applications and provide up to 3 candidates. So in reading like the policy, it sounds like there's 3 different bursaries, and then I think we're still meaning there's 3 different bursaries. So, but I just wasn't
Yes.
sure. I wonder if we could just add some clarity there, because it's like up to 3 candidates. I wasn't sure if it was 3 candidates and there's 3 bursaries, or if it was 3 candidates per bursary per location. That was my only comment on that part. And yeah.
Okay, so school counselors at each site, something like that, will assess the applications and provide up to 3 candidates for the interview process at each site.
From each side, yeah.
Yeah.
Or from each site. Okay.
Or for each bursary.
Okay.
Well,
That
which,
probably makes more sense.
is that what we mean? Because what you're doing is providing a bursary,
Yes.
1 bursary for each site.
Site.
So it's the same then.
Yeah. I think for each site would probably more clearly define
Okay.
for folks. It might get mixed up in each bursary.
Right,
Making it
because then you would have like
one.
9 people eligible for 3, but it wouldn't be delineated by school.
Yeah, we need it per site.
Yeah, yeah. Mhm. Okay. Up to 3 per site for that site's specific bursary.
And may I?
I have Elaine and, oh, sorry, Ronnie again.
No, that's okay. I
Okay.
can go back to whatever.
Okay,
works.
Elaine and then Julie.
Yeah, I think it was Julie and I that were on this, the former scholarship bursary committee. So I think, like from my notes, everything that we talked about at the last meeting is in here. So I just appreciate that the updates were done. Thank you.
Julie?
Let's see, am I unmuted? Yes. I don't see, maybe it's here, because we don't name the sites, and I'm just, so it's Qualicum, it's Bolinas, and Pass. And
It's in the
Keep
policy
is,
statement.
Yeah,
Is
it's
it?
in the policy statement. Yep, page 1 of the.
oh, that's because I'm on the review. Well, I guess there's my question is False Bay, grade 12 now, is that still under the umbrella sort of Keep, or what about the False Bay students?
Well, that's kind of a trick question because this has only just happened in the last month and a half that
Well,
False
I
Bay
know
goes to 12. So let's play it out, but they are under the banner of the Keep principle, and let's just not lose it. To see how it happens, there might not be a grade 12 student. So I don't know how Autumn plans on handling that. But-
You remember you have approved our motion to move False Bay under the purview
Yeah.
of Pass.
Keep. Yeah.
Keep.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
they are captured there.
Okay, that was sort of my question to just ensure, because it is so new, I wanted to make sure it got captured in this policy, and it is then.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
I think so. Yep. Rennie.
Just I have a question about the part where it says about what the candidates will be considered on a combination of the following. And the first one there listed is evidence of economic need that would seriously impede entering post-secondary. So it's just more out of like curiosity, I guess, of how that's done. And I guess I'm just hoping it's done in a way that's maybe not too harmful, or like I don't know what kind of information we're asking students to provide.
It presents itself and has pretty much from the get-go, usually with the counselor guiding the student in their opening letter to us to give us an idea of their financial. They aren't required to do any, tax returns filings with us or any of that kind of stuff at all. but it's such that that they express the need that this would help them with their education and being successful if they were picked to the overall burden on themselves and things like that. And it's quite sensitively presented. I don't think it's caused, I don't know others of my fellow trustees who've been on the interview committee and seen these. I don't think it's I don't think it's not totally ignored for sure, but not made to be a stringent criteria per se. Peter and then Elaine.
Yeah, and just for anyone who's new to committee, the reason we've gone from scholarship to bursary is this board has been much more interested in providing scholarships or money for those in need, as opposed to, adding to potential funding that our high achievers have access to. And so if you're going to do a bursary, you have to have need as your driving force, and you have to have a way to establish that. And as Chair Flynn has described, this is where we've landed, and we do think that it is not as non-invasive as you can do this.
Elaine and then Julie.
Yeah, I've been vetting scholarships for a long time, both for school district and various other places. And you get these, I think for one scholarship one year, I got 25 applications, and every single one of them, because it was a scholarship, had marks that were 95 and above. So, those folks do get supported by other scholarships. This one, I think, is specific to, students who really are in need that may not qualify for some of those other scholarships, but are just really good human beings. And my experience sitting in on the interviews is folks are quite open with their life stories, and often will tell us straight out about their life stories as they introduce themselves. It's being on the interview committee is really interesting, because for some of these young people, they've never been in an interview like this before. So it's amazing how well they do, and it's really a credit to them. So yeah, enough of me.
Julie.
Oh, okay. I thought the audio had gone. This is just a really quick anecdote. One year when I was sitting on the committee and a student came in for their interview, this student had already been to a number of other interviews with organizations, and the student knew that they would be receiving a number of scholarships and bursaries. And in the course of the interview, they said, you know what, I know that there's some really great students here that could benefit more from this than I will. I've already, gotten some scholarships, and I really appreciate that support. And so right in the body of the interview, they said, I want you to give it to another student that's just as deserving. And I thought, isn't that great? That is the students in our district.
Anything else? And we can move this one as well then to first reading. Policy 709. Thumbs up, trustees. All good to go at a first reading. Thank you very much. 709, policy 710 is next. Resolution of student and parent caregivers complaints. There is no change to the information and it's very recent, of course, as well. And certainly want to acknowledge the great work that Deepak has done putting together graphics and some statements that are, short and to the point, and working with parents to have them familiar with this process. So this will go as no change to the board table. Are we all in agreement? Elaine?
Yeah, just wondering, I really like that Deepak graphic. As a general rule, I have trouble with flowcharts. I don't quite know why, but I do. And I found the DPAC one was clearer. I wonder why we're not including it in here.
It's not our policy. It's their framing of the information.
Ah,
And this is the board's document. If we certainly can, and I would suspect we would refer to their document for sure, because it is very well done. I said as much and wrote a note to them as well to circulate, please, as far and wide. But that is their work, and I would not want to stand on or tiptoe on that in any way, unless I'm reading incorrectly. the whole
No,
Rainey.
that's right.
Randy, sorry.
That's okay. There, in the administrative procedures for this policy, there is a form, a notice of complaint form. As far as I could tell, this is the only place I could find the form is embedded in the administrative procedures, and it's on, I think it's page 8 or 6. So it's quite deep in there. So I feel like if this is the form that parents are supposed to use, it's not very accessible. You'd have to know that this is the policy that you're using to raise a concern. Then you have to know that there's an administrative procedure, and you have to read far enough to know that there is a form to use. And then it's in a PDF that so it's not like one that you could, you'd have to, I guess, just print it. But yeah, it's just not really clear, like if that's the form that's supposed to be used, how parents are supposed to have access to that form.
Anyone with some technical wizardry to help us out here? Dr. Jory, Peter.
Yeah, I agree with you. I don't like it. What I would say about it is it really has defaulted to sort of a model that people could use to write an email or some other communication that's much more formal, but it doesn't say to do that either. I agree. I like this stuff to go in a form where we collect that information and it comes in kind of boxes that where somebody follows that survey process and fills in and then captures everything. It tends to work a little bit better. But forms can be problematic as well. We could do an updatable, editable PDF. And people could fill it out and then either, download it, email it to us, or print it. That would be, I think, better than this. Or we could just make it clear to answer these questions to the best of your ability when you're communicating with us. And Karen just came in with something.
Yeah, she said we could create a link to permission click form.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Okay.
So there's some technical ways we can adjust
all of those I think would be better responses than just having it stay like this. And so I would certainly like to update this and I'm looking for some suggestions on which direction to go.
As under a heading called forms, district forms or something that you would create and then pull it completely from this.
We could leave it in and say, or use this link to get to the form that has these questions. We could do that maybe.
Yeah.
What does everybody think?
Comments, trustees. Carol first and Julie.
Yeah, I just wanted to say it's really nice when people bring these things to our attention because we live in an age of technology that it would be nice if people could fill out the form online and then hit submit as we do for many, many other organizations. Something like that would be, but the link that Karen was suggesting would be a really great thing, a hyperlink form. Yeah, exactly, Rudy. Anyways, yeah, I just wanted to say that the ability is there. We just need the technology to get going on it.
Yeah. Okay. We'll make that work. Julie and then Elaine.
Yeah, two things. And one was basically putting a link immediately to a hyperlink to the form immediately there. And that's probably a model or a format we may, when we're going over these
Sure.
policies when there's other policies that have forms associated with it, that we continue that format all the way through all of our policies. And the other one is, does DPAC have a website? I mean, I go to the Facebook page, but if they actually had a website, or again, someplace where under our resources, under internal resources, perhaps there could be a link there to that DPAC flow chart. If it's someplace up on the web that's link. Thanks.
I've got Randy next. Do you want to chime in a bit about a DPAC website?
Sure. Yeah, we are working on creating our own website, and so we could definitely link back to the resources on the district website there. And we are planning to put our graphic up there and make sure that parents know where to go if they have a complaint. But I think it's a good segue to, because my next question was just going to be around how this is communicated to parents, because I think somewhere, I'm trying to find it, but I can't remember where, but I'm fairly certain I read that schools are supposed to bring this to like PACS. Maybe it said even by October or something like that. But I feel like the way this is communicated out could use some maybe a little bit more attention in terms of how this is communicated on a regular basis. And the district has a web page that has conflict resolution. However, when you go to the homepage for the district, there is no immediate way to click to it. Like, you have to search for it. And so I usually just do a Google search and find it that way. So if you don't know that exists and can know to look for it, or you're specifically Google searching for that through our district, you can find it, but it's not easily accessible on the district page. I feel like it probably could be on every school page. I think there's probably some of this information in the agendas. I can't check my kids' agendas because they're at school, but I wonder if there's some ways to help with communicating this out.
It's part of the communications committee ideas.
Yeah.
Maybe. You're thinking and Julie's thinking, I wouldn't lose it, but again, I would hope that, the communications group was using or seeing how tech can make it easy for folks in as many ways and styles or banners or, clickables or whatever, in getting our communications things moving forward, tightened up, whatever. Elaine and then Peter.
Yeah, I'm just thinking about all of this. So one of the things that, one of the reasons for the 3 readings is that when we do a first reading, it allows us to be public with the document. And that allows DPAC and all of our partners to have input in what they want to see in the policy, or get the information out. And then in the second reading, we take all of that information and subsume it as best we can, and try and make it really nice. And then the third reading is really just, okay, let's make sure that we have dotted all the I's and crossed all the T's. So that's why we have the 3 readings. There are times when we do things in just one reading, but it's unusual, and it's just when something is pretty straightforward. The 3 readings I think are really important. I'm a bit concerned about taking this forward to first reading. I think we've got the intent right, so but there's a lot of little rough edges with this one, I would say. So I'm not sure that it should go forward to first reading, but that's okay.
Peter.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind putting this through
the
process here and seeing if we can tighten it up a little bit. And I'm sure we could even reduce it 20 or 30% and still have all of the content intact. In regard to what to do next about this, I am uncomfortable with this. I've got it on my screen here, being, you know, what we are providing to people. I agree that we should do something electronic, and I don't want to kick it to communications to committee. We got 15 people there. They have lots to talk about. To me, this is operational, and I want to modernize our processes whenever possible. And I think this is just, this is staff work for us to kind of, after receiving some input, some direction, doing something that is a little better and more accessible. And Rudy had a suggestion there. I mean, we could create a form quite easily. You have links and tabs and across the system and make that form, easy to get to for parents. But I just want to be careful about giving the comms committee too much to do.
No, I was thinking of it more being the kind of thing you keep in your head, that if we're looking at comms, there's a district comms, there's a school comms, there's a website, so this, and I think it goes to Rudy's comment there that, you'd have a tab at the school website called Resolving Concerns. I just saw it as a part of the tools and communications and lifting it up. We're getting to the next level with it, that using technology in as many ways and places, as Rennie was saying, not saying that it goes to communications that's not what I was thinking. I was just thinking that communications thinks of, a PERT network of all the different ways and means and things, that anything will go that can then be touched off to get to people as fast as possible.
Anyway, just a couple more points. I would be happy to do another version and bring that forward for next month, and just kind of see if we can tidy it a bit. And the other point I wanted to say is, I mean, I like the flow chart that DPAC came up with, especially, with that clarification that we asked for. And with their permission, with their support, we could adopt it as part of our AP. There's nothing stopping us from adding it and having that be a resource, and maybe even, with their help, building a link into that. So
sure,
that is, that makes sense to me. Why hide that thing from people when there's another place we can put it, and that's here where it will be helpful.
Okay, so when you and I have policy prep next, Peter, and we look at this coming back to November, we're going to rejig some of the whole thing, put it through the blender a bit, and then I can reach out to Rennie to talk about adopting and linking the DPAC work to the policy as well, as long as the DPAC folks are all in agreement that that's okay to do.
Yeah, and they need to probably have some agreement on that.
To Marina and the DPAC and Rennie and see the people's sentiment at that level about us working with it as well. So this
Jason Howard is on again, and he's actually, I think, the president, right?
No, Marina's the president.
Okay, sorry.
Marina is.
He's Jason's.
I find it hard to keep them all separate.
Jason's treasurer.
I know.
Marina is there as well.
Right, he's treasurer. He was complaining about treasurer the other night. That's right.
No. Marina's the press.
Yeah.
All good. All good.
So, I'll reach out to you guys, all of you. So this won't go. I look at another rework and see it in November. Okay, on to new policy 805. We do have to keep moving this one along, so hoping folks have taken the time to have a good look. It is a requirement, ministerial directive, to be in our policies by, I believe it is December. This is now part of the PE 10 curriculum, physical and health education 10. AEDs being in schools, which were, I think we were about 10 years into having now. Naloxone kits and associated training and things like that. So you have before you the policy and admin procedure for new policy 805. Responses to unexpected health emergencies. Does anyone have any comments? Peter?
I don't think we need to have both. I think in some of the conversations that we've had, ministry staff, politicians and such have used the term policy. And then those of us who do policy, we get, we think that they specifically mean policy. Whereas in some of the meetings I've been at with ministry folks, they say, no, this can be an AP. It could be a policy, but it can be an AP. And I like it as an AP. We just need to have an appropriate policy to attach it to. So I don't believe we need to have both. I think there's a lot of redundancy there. I think the AP that we have probably covers it once we, figure it out. And then we don't need to necessarily have 3 readings. But I will defer to the group regarding what we should do.
Yes, and I've heard the same. And in looking to the 800, which is our next step, I was wondering, and maybe we do this as a takeaway, if because we have the time, maybe, that it be subsumed into student health and common medical conditions, which covers off anaphylaxis, which was another ministerial order of some 10 years ago. This becomes yet another part of that with the commentary in 805, and 805 presently doesn't have an AP. So maybe we want to look at the 2. I mean, sorry.
802.
802. 802.
Yeah, 802. Yeah. I like it in 802.
My apologies. Sorry. Choking on the spot. Elaine and then Julie.
Yeah. I think that works for 802. I don't like it when the ministry makes directives that we shall have a policy on this and that, because they don't think about policy in the same way that we do. And, but I get why this is really important. So I would suggest that, maybe we need to subsume it somewhere else. The difficulty with just subsuming it under students, of course, is the same problem that we have with everything. It's also staff and visitors.
Yeah,
and
fair.
So it's like, I don't know, maybe we need to have a collective section that says for all folks who are in the school or something. I don't know. It's just confounding. The big question I had is around the training, actually. It says that the training will be coordinated with public health professionals or first responders. Is that actually true? And if so, can trustees get in on the training? Oh yeah, and then there's the implementation timelines. I don't like when there's dates in policies. Because we will eliminate that really soon. So let's just take that piece out. We know what our implementation timelines are. So those were my comments.
Julie and then Carol.
Yeah, basically, I was just going to echo what Elaine was saying. I don't think 802 or something is the place for it because it doesn't cover anybody. But this might be, again, to just talk about formatting. And I think we've had this discussion before, but maybe we should have it again. On our website, when people go to our policies, I'm wondering, I know some school districts, basically it's like a table, and it'll have 3 columns, or actually maybe we're talking rows, where it'll have, let's say health and safety, whatever, 802, 802 student health, common medical conditions, and then it would have in one of the columns it would say policy, and the next column would be AP. So there people go, okay, here's the policy, here's the action. And so if we had things that were just standalone APs, they could still come up under health and safety under the 800s, but instead of anything being in the policy column, it would just have something in the AP column. I'm just wondering if maybe how we actually format it for people to access might help address what we do with some of these APs instead of trying to attach them to a policy. If they're going to just stand alone, let them stand alone.
Carol, then Ronnie.
I was curious about the training as well. When I worked in the Kootenays in like 2017, they had people come in and train the students on how to give the naloxone. So I find it interesting that it's going to be a staff member or a volunteer that's going to be trained in the AED. And when those things work on their own, there's directions in an AED for how to work one. And what if that person isn't there? Or so what is the purpose of training an individual if it could happen anywhere in the building and it be needed? And so I don't know. I'm a little bit confused at their direction for this. And do we have AEDs in all the schools? Even the elementary schools?
Yep, have
Yep.
for years.
And then for a
Years.
while,
That's
yeah.
awesome. That's
Yeah.
really great. I
Yeah.
did not know that.
Yeah, long
Thanks.
time.
Thanks.
Rennie.
Thank you. I have a question about the AP and under maintenance. There's a discussion about designated staff will conduct monthly inspections, and then maintenance logs will be kept on site and reviewed quarterly. Just wondering, when things like this come up, are they often kept more general like this, or is there an opportunity to put like who would be responsible for those actions? Just wondering, because sometimes if nobody's assigned, then no one knows who's ultimately responsible for that kind of upkeep for that action.
I think it would fall under the school health and safety committee, of which there are a number of people, and that is a standing committee at each school. It must have representation, and there are certain must things that they do. That's how I read this. To say an actual name of a staff person, that might not last very well over time, but I think this is definitely under the school-based health and safety committee jurisdiction and follow-up and monitoring, and they do that for a number of items around the schools, not just per se to these items. Peter.
Yeah, it's literally Brant who does it. And the reason we had that, those choices there is we just haven't clarified with him how often he does it. But to Flynn's point, policies are not people. We want to be careful that we are not mistaking those two things, and just trying to reflect what the expectations are and what we see as being reasonable, and holding ourselves accountable. Just one other point. I recognize that if we do this as an AP, it's got to go somewhere. And I have an aversion to orphans, as I call them, where you have an AP but no policy. So I won't always attach them. But if we can't figure out a good place to put this, and maybe 801 is actually makes more sense, then maybe we have to make sure we actually do have a policy, although it seems like a lot of content for a pretty simple concept. And I don't like that either, but what are you going to do?
Okay, well, I'm hearing, because there's, the concern of date and things like that we can likely, and maybe we say that, we aren't going to have a policy, we're going to have an AP to address this issue, and in compliance with ministerial discussions and information that we've heard, and that how we organize it in our thinking, or what section it appears under. Peter and I can talk about it at our next policy prep meeting. Maybe it's 801, maybe it doesn't fit for 802. And those two are coming forward in the next section. So as much to say that the comment at the board meeting would be that this item will be addressed as an AP and is at the policy committee of the whole still. Not first reading of a board policy. We are going to travel the route of an admin procedure. Are we okay with that, trustees? Okay, Julie, I'm hoping that's okay with you. And so that's how.
Sorry, Eve.
Yep.
Does that mean, was this time sensitive? Something had to be in by when to the ministry?
Well,
we just have to have it done.
Done, yeah. We have it done by December. It's year end, basically. So if it's an AP for us and AP stands as we have written now, and where we find and how to place it, it would come to the board as with no policy statement and just the AP next week.
I see. And then we'll just continue on though and
Yeah.
figure out how we're going to formalize. Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
So it does.
Policy
Okay.
prep, Peter and I'll discuss if it, to organize your comment on charts and, you know, strategies of organizing,
Right.
singular APs, a table, you know, a spreadsheet, something. Does
Okay.
it fit 801, 802, things like that? We'll see what our thinking can be around that.
Okay. Thanks.
Okay. Elaine?
Yeah, just a point for folks who are new to policy. When we go through a policy like this one that's brand new, we go through 3 readings of the administrative procedures along with it. And I'm actually with Dr. Jory. I don't like the orphaned APs, but you know, so be it. We'll find a place for this. When it's an old policy and all we have to do is update the AP, then that becomes an information item. So just so that you know, you've got some clarity around that. There's a lot to learn in policy. I love it.
Okay, seeing no further comments, that's what we'll do with response to unexpected health emergencies. None for second reading at this point, and none for third and final reading. Just in foreshadowing the 800 series. I have 801 as health and safety of employees in the workplace. It may fall under Anna's bailiwick again. Unfortunately, that's piling her up with about 4 different policies that WorkSafe may have comments on. So I'm thinking that's what might happen there, but I'm encouraging everyone to look at all of the policies in the 800 series. The 802, student health and common medical conditions. Are there ways that we can maybe combine some things with 805? We've just discussed that. 803 is toward a considerate school and workplace environment. I defer, and maybe with Peter's help, to ask Anna are we repeating ourselves in anything that exists already in WorkSafe BC. They have already WorkSafe sent safety in the workplace policies. So are we repeating ourselves? And keep that in the back of our heads. And then the 4th one, which although it was last reviewed in 2024, physical restraint and seclusion of students. I'm not so sure there is anything coming forward at this time from the Ombudsman's report and review on this topic. It is about 18 months old. Dr. Jory would have to help me. I think he is expecting to come down with a report on this by the end of the year.
End of the year.
So if that stands and tells us something or provides us with info, I would suggest if everyone can just be familiar with what our policy statement says, so that when the ombudsperson comes down with their report, it's a provincial analysis they've done on seclusion and restraints of students, and we can see if it impacts us in any way. Julie, comment.
Again, just for clarification for people, that the ombudsperson has been working on this, and they have, I see it popping up on social media in a lot of different places. You know, they're out there, they're getting perspectives from parents, from students, from teachers, from all the sectors, and that's going to form, I think, the basis of their report that will be coming out. So I just wanted to add clarification of what that report is.
Yep, and we completed the survey as a district about Christmas of last year, 2024. Pretty intentional questions. Yes, the ombudsperson is still meeting with other groups. as part of my work with BCPC, BC Public School Employers Association. The ombudsperson has reached out, but they still have yet to make a date to meet with us to discuss the actual labor relations, human resources implications. And so it's progressing slowly, I would say, at this point. But I hope it would come to pass, and soon we could be able to reflect on it as to how it reflects on our work here and our policy statement. And then we only have one policy in the 900 series, information management and accountability. And I've had a brief couple of conversations with Karen to say that it's as pretty succinct as we can get it, because these are things like dates and times and things that are kept for how long and record keeping and things like that. So we'll get that up and going for the review of our last, and then we are done. The whole book. So to summarize, we will be taking forward to the board the new draft of student services, we'll call it, Safe, Caring, Inclusive Schools. The Board of Education bursary will go forward to the next board meeting. We will hold on the parent and caregivers for some dialogue with DPAC, and throwing it into the hopper as far as words and AI check and some of the forms and things. So we'll hold that for revision till November, as well as also holding where the AP would go. No policy for 805, but the AP where it will fit in our list of admin procedures on the unexpected health. Is there anything I missed? Did I miss anything? I don't think so.
Chair Flynn. So
what?
You'll just be an AP coming to the October meeting, and you'll decide where to put it later, or you're going to wait till policy in November to decide?
No, I think we'll bring the AP to the meeting, because I think we need to bring it to the public, and then where we actually, logistically file it can come with your assistance as well, please, as to where these things can fit best. Is there anything else, trustees, and from our partners, any other comments that folks would like to raise? A whole 17 minutes back in your afternoon. I thank you very much for joining and for all the great conversation, and enjoy the last of our sunny day of fall, and everyone go out for a brisk walk because it's getting colder. So thanks, everyone.
Yeah, thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Bye.